that whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome again to another Ascension update here with me in the Alps of Slovenia. So let's talk about the month of November and what it brings. So as per usual, I want to set some trends in the beginning of what this is in alignment to numerology and what we're going through, but then I will, as always, move into deeper aspects of awareness that I'm receiving about the soul integration that a lot of us are moving through at this time, and what's really pivotal for us, as well as I have some automatic writing prepared for us for this month. So I want to say that why I'm calling this update an Illumined Priesthood path is because so many of us are now finally really stabilized in our spirit embodiment. So for me personally, this summer I've been withdrawing my life force in order to be closer, more intimate with my own self-mastery, and then I've been going through some relationship changes which were actually helping me to embody that in a practical way, in an earthly grounded way. And this is what is actually the meaning of relationships through self-mastery, or self-mastery through relationships. So I have a course that I feel is so important because as I'm going through my own relationship challenges and integrations, that's the mastery I'm using for my Cosmic Beloved course, and it always helps me to move directly back to me, because what a lot of us are doing is we're still projecting certain things that are unfolding within relationships on the other person. We can't see the shadow that they might be reflecting as a reflection of our own shadow, and where we have those blind or weak spots, because we're all kind of mastering something maybe better than other. You know, we all have these weak spots still. And as we can apply this wisdom that I was receiving through spirit for quite a while, which is all in my Cosmic Beloved course, then we can really, with ease and graceful awareness, return to the presence. That's the truth of our relationships on earth at this time for our ascension. So the Illumined Priesthood means that we're finally, those of you who are entering this path, you're finally feeling that self-completion. What I've noticed is through the synthesis that I've been going through recently, there was a lot of void present. There was a lot of void felt within the relationships that once felt dynamic, or that they had an impulse, you know, that they had the cosmic dynamic tension. But that dynamic tension is always there for us to be presented with something that we need to integrate within ourselves. And a lot of people don't get that. They're constantly searching for these answers through maybe then finding out new relationships, or moving a lot in their lives, or traveling and seeking themselves. And I mean, it is a pathway, it is a part of the process, and yet when we can't really see what's the real meaning behind it, we can travel the greatest depths and move, I don't know, physically move around the planet, and yet we're going to miss the point of why we're here, for those of you who really want to step into our conscious self-mastery. So get that course. I always recommend it because now the times are so intense. We're in Scorpio times now, which is even more deepened. So if you're feeling that void, if you're feeling the lack of passion from the things that maybe you felt before were so inspiring for you, don't fear that, because a lot of people are now feeling that withdrawal of the life force that I felt already in the summer, but I've filled that void with more of myself. So during the summer, I felt like I was reborn. I haven't yet shared this experience with you publicly, but I felt like I'm finally fully alive on this earth plane, like all of my spirit is here now, that all of my selves are here now as one being. And because of that, I approach relationships no longer through the need to integrate through another, but simply by sharing with another. And a part of this mastery, once you get that attainment, will become more and more about you volunteering to set those trends for others who are still seeking, who are still searching for themselves in their own mastery. So I wouldn't say that relationships are so black and white, which a lot of people tend to say is, move those relationships out of your life, this is toxic for you, this is this and that, oh, this was just some person, it's random, not important. Everything is so important. And a lot of the times we don't wish to see those things, so we kind of like, you know, we avoid them or put those blind spots. We kind of cover them up with more illusion, and that's not really working for us, because we're always going to be met up with the same circumstances until we outgrow them, until we integrate them through our own presence. And a lot of people don't know what that means. I know it's just mentally speaking, but without actual embodiment. So that's why I'm interested now with working people also more personally here in the Alps, with retreats, with lifting up the life force and getting you to the activated state of what it means to live as a conscious pillar here on Earth. For when you achieve that within yourself, you're so full that the only other step for you to take is share that with others. And that's the thing, that you can't force that upon others when they're not when they're not yet ready. So they're kind of fragmented, and we meet a lot of fragmented people. And for us to come into our pillar, we're learning a lot about the human psyche, especially those of you who are volunteer souls. You're learning so much about the human psyche. So when you have human relationships and you don't always get it because you're saying, that's not my mirror, but why am I having those experiences? Is because you're in training to see how the human shift at this time through this particular consciousness shift on the planet is taking place. So you're gathering data, you're becoming more illumined with that, and you're actually able to assist from a higher ground, from a more neutral, grounded pillar perspective, which is the enlightened priesthood of you. The priesthoods are no longer in the temples. They're no longer in certain places. You know, when you visit places like ancient buildings, now they're just ruins. When I go to some place like that, I don't feel energy, it's dead. When I go to the mountains and here with our life force portal here in the Alps, I feel such life moving through the ethers and on the physical plane of existence because it's so potent with energy. And when I go to those places, I just feel these places, those temples, were only alive with the consciousness of people that held them there in the place at that time. So now when people go and take all those pictures and think they're going to get something or activate something, you might activate a remembrance from those ancient days and ancient times, and that's all it's about. But the physical places, you know, you just have those ruins, and without conscious light emanation into that creation, there's nothing there. It's just, I don't know, gravel or pieces of rock. So I want to say that these Scorpio times, which is the month of November, that's why for a lot of people November is like, oh, just get me through it, right? Even in the Alps, November is for me one of the most dull months in the year because, you know, the leaves start falling off, still no snow, and it's kind of like that, you know, the month of everything when your energy needs to move within your underworld. So everything you're creating now, you have to create from everything of your internal resources, that not much out there. And that's why people get afraid is, and a lot of times we all say, oh, I want to travel somewhere, there's more life force, or conditions are better for me and all of that, and that's all good and well. I do support that. But if it's coming from the ego perspective and separation, and you have to do the work first of your inner fulfillment if that's your soul path and calling, then still in a way we're just running away from the inevitable, what our soul wants us to do at this time. So I am getting ready to kind of like put all of that knowledge of what I went through, because as I personally go through these things as my own transformations and alchemy of the soul, I can then put it into a knowledge basis to share with you, because it's not just mental understanding. I've actually lived through it and I went through it myself. So I want to share this in the knowledge about soul embodiment and how you know that you're embodying your soul. How do you feel and all of that through your life force, and how to make those steps more conscious on this path. And that's what I want to offer in this next course, because this is probably going to be the most grounded, most descended course that I have to offer, because there's a lot of courses I have that are more cosmic. So for instance, what's happening with our ascension now, it is a parallel ascension. It's not just happening on Earth at this time. When you have more understanding on a cosmic level, then you will see how your human self shifts with it. So you're no longer thinking I'm going somewhere, you know. Tough school for light workers or starseeds. It's like, you know what? Get your act together. You're here on Earth now. Do your work. Do your soul embodiment at this time now. That's what really is so important. So I'm going to share when the course is available. It's going to be probably very soon this month. But I also want to remind you that if you want first to see that multifaceted perspective, I do engage you in taking the Multidimensional Ascension course, because you're going to see how that is playing out in the microcosm, which is our human experience. So for a lot of you, you've probably been guided to read less, to absorb less information, and to integrate more, to just move down to the body. For me, the whole year was about body. It was about embodiment. The number 9 is a completion, and we're completing a huge karmic cycle of 9 years. Started back in 2007 and 8, something like that, and now it's ending with this 2016. And what we're feeling is that lessons or people and situations and places are coming together And you might have a dance of the spiraling movement when you're thinking you're retrograding back, or a person or a situation or place reflects something that all the other essences had before. And I've had this in a relationship that mirrored all the essences that have been integrating, for example, through particular individual relationships. It all came down through one person. It all was reflected back to me in one instant. It was almost like my soul wanted to have a, you know, a review, like check, you know, what all am I responding through differently now? And this is happening because our souls want this completion before they take the next step. So if you're receiving a lot of intensity, it's good. You're not on a pause in a way. You're actually doing that review, but you're doing it more consciously now, and you're seeing the difference in your responses. So you've done the embodiment. We've done it already, those of you who've walked that path. But why you're still having those issues or challenges is how you mentally perceive them sometimes, or emotionally. So these are just perspectives, is because you're still kind of just checking in. You're tuning into how you can respond differently, and because this is a part of our training, how to be with others. So for example, for a lot of us who are already whole and integrated, we're still meeting people who are fragmented because we're serving those people. But we're learning how to be still whole so that you don't come into the reality of someone who's still fragmented, or they don't project those fragmented aspects that they're still assimilating and synthesizing for themselves on you. And these are our practices. So when something like that happens, you're not just necessarily thinking, oh, I went back to the past. Why am I repeating those things or lessons? These are no longer just lessons. For those of you doing the work of your mastery, it's kind of like you're learning to synthesize your wisdom. And this applied wisdom is now becoming a tool of learning about the human psyche in a way that you haven't maybe understood it before. And you're trusting the intuition that you're getting about that, because with your higher self, in the cosmic service way, it's always like up and down. It's always like an infinite loop of what you're integrating, then what you're receiving from your higher self about the situation or the people, and how you're meant to improve your service. I remember years back when someone looked at my Mayan chart, they said to me, your eternal question in life is always, how do I improve my service? How to make my service even better? And that's why most of my lessons were about this divine trust and deepening it. So with this karmic completion and resolution, that's our theme word, as well as we're getting upgrades, light body upgrades, major time. It's an 11/11 gateway this month, as well as the month being 11 number, universal cycle and month. So it's kind of like very intense, and with the Scorpio energy. And a lot of you might go like, oh, you know, or like a ostrich putting its head in the sand, but we're not meant to do that. We're also feeling more fatigue, and a lot of you might be more tired. Recently, I've heard Larkma that shared that a lot of light workers have put so much effort into the human shift, the consciousness, that they're tired now, that they need to rest. And as I came home from my holiday, which wasn't really a holiday, and it's another story, but it turned out to be something more of an integration again. And I thought, okay, I'm finally going to go for a holiday, and it didn't happen yet. I was like, oh, why? You know? But that's just the story of my life. It's always something more to master, to refine, to engage, to service, to activate. It's like, oh. Sometimes it is intense, but we can't run away from what our soul knows that we can do. And sometimes as humans, we have that doubt, or the seeds of doubt are coming from the outside, but they have no place if we are not having something within ourselves as the inner charge that then has an impulse to react to that doubt. So it's really important for us to see the difference and to trust in a way that life is taking us where we need to be. We're always where we need to be. And yet we're also conscious navigators. So read my latest Ascension update about this Illumined path and meeting all of ourselves on my blog diary, the Diary of an Ascension Pioneer. These are currently my updates, my newsletters, only these blogs. So stay updated with what I write there, because it's so much coming through all the time and every day. But the newsletters for Serapina Light, I'm not sure when they're finally going to become available, because I'm seeking out a better new format. So it might be with the beginning of next year. I don't know. I can't promise. But those of you who were used to having my updates through newsletters via Ascension Pioneers, the page is now down. And it was a huge shift for me to have such a, it's like a pole shift, you know, in a way. So be patient with me, because I'm doing the best as I can with so many things that I want to do next. So I got to have some time for the things that are new as well. So I want to share some of the things that, like I said, are highlights for this month. But before, I really felt called to share this with you, that the time is deepening, and you might feel like you're always in training mode, and you're always in this activation mode, and your body might be tired. So for me, as I came home from my holiday, my body just started getting tired already so early in the evening. And I used to be a person who went to bed at midnight or 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. So when I started getting sleepy at 8 in the evening, I was like, what is this? Am I a grandma now? But my body suddenly shifted into this new essence that it just needed. And I felt, oh my God, I'm exhausted, not just from this month or my latest experience. I'm exhausted from those whole 9 years. And when you allow your body to just guide you, because it knows what it's doing, it knows what it's providing for you, it knows what it's seeding, everything will flow again. And if you have worries, but then what happens with my finances and my family and the people I need to be with, it just all will align. But the body was so important this year for those of you on this path of mastery. We've been bringing it down to the flesh. We've been making our experience blissful and harmonious on earth, because a lot of people are saying, I believe in this union, but it's not here on earth. Well, why are we here then? Did you ever ask yourself this question? If you read the book, The Prism of Lyra, you will see that our integration takes place here on earth now. And you're so intelligent and so wise for projecting your consciousness here in this physical 3D human experience temporarily. So you know, and you knew what you were doing. Don't doubt that. Don't question that. You are the master, you know what you're doing. And again, I want to reiterate the importance of the books from Jeffrey Hoppe, Saint Germain, especially the Masters of New Energy. I was reading it again on the plane because I had so much time. And I read it in a new way. Again, I integrated it in a new way. So it's really good for us at this time, what it really implies about our mastery. So, okay, let's start with the astro and monthly highlights, and then let's see what this brings us next. Okay, guys, so November is an 11/11 code month, and the portal of 1010, which was bringing us a lot of the diamond light codes, is now going to be more integrated, more embodied, and it might come through learning through life experiences. For me, for sure, it was like that, because 11 is almost like the gateway of learning through our physical experience, seeing the illusions and delusions that sometimes we need to have through application. And these are not mistakes. However you think of your life situations as whether this happened this way or that way, it's simply the perfection of what needed to occur for integration of all of our human rainbow spectrum of experience. And I've been repeating that over and over again in my videos. So the 11/11 marks this gateway, and in November, although, like I said, on the surface it might look like things are not as vivid or expressive and the nature already starts to go to sleep in its underworld as well, this is actually when our inner intimacy levels and expressions are most active. So it's time to go so deep within to see the intimacy that we're learning through. And the embodiment is all about intimacy. We have to start getting intimate with our own bodies before we can expect such unions and such great intimacy coming through another. And when I meet people, I see that this is the aspect that they have most challenges with, because everyone can be mentally open to spirituality or new concepts, and people who are very much of the new energy are very fast as when they start their awakening. But the applied wisdom has to come through our shadow and light integration. So people who are still very fragmented might respond to a lot of light coming at them at once. So in my own life, I had to learn how my energy influences a lot of other people. And a lot of times my energy was too intense for most people. And that's why they kept coming and going. And I had to learn that this has nothing to do with me, that it's not personal, that people sometimes will act violently, or they will act aggressively or in an angry way towards you, but it's not actually about you. Sometimes it's, and you know, I work with the white light of creation and unity consciousness. This light is so intense that as much as it activates our light self, it will also activate the shadow self, and things will be seen for what they are, and people will start seeing all of their selves. But a lot of times we don't want to wish to see the shadow, and we judge it that it's bad. But just recently, I think it was the astrologer, I think it was Kepacha, who said that we can't not live without judgments, like making calls, making choices. You know, this is good for me in this moment, this is not good for me in this moment. These are also judgments in a way. They're not egoic judgments, and yet there still are human judgments for us to make choices, and masters always choose in a sovereign way. So it is important, and this gateway of the 11/11 for me is always like seeing things as they are, not just what we wish for them to be. Because as we're moving through other energies, and especially moving with the partnership energy, which was Libra, we tend to get fascinated about other people, but we're actually getting fascinated about parts of us that they mirror back to us. So those of you who are not yet doing that in relationships, to know how to reflect that energy back towards you, You're always going to be longing for another, what they can give you, what they can deliver for you, what kind of experience they can create with you, or you can create together. There is no togetherness without the full integration of your individuality. And people who are not yet strong individuals, or they haven't learned to stand up for their voice, speak their voice, and make their own choices, they don't know how it feels to be in a coupledom that is divine and sacred and holy and united, because they haven't yet really mastered their own self as an individual. So that's what it's really important to live, and let people, you know, do what they have to do. Because sometimes we perceive love as, oh, I love someone so much, I want to give them my all, but sometimes it's going to be violent for them if it's too much, and we're not actually doing good, no matter how loving we are in our intention. And we need to learn that the hard way, especially those of us who are really loving and we wish to embrace the world with our love, and a lot of times we're rejected for it because people are just where they are, and we have to take that as it is. And my friend recently reminded me, when people sometimes show their egoic faces, people tend to get, well, they showed us our real face now, right? Or he showed or she showed this true face or true colors now. And he said, that's not really true, because they're showing their ego, so they're not really their true colors. And I'm like, of course, why do we say those things? We're like programming ourselves that when someone acts badly or aggressively or in an angry way, we're like, they're showing us their true face now. No, it's actually the opposite. They're showing the shadow, which is the unrecognized and unowned fragments of the soul that are coming back, that want to come back into unity. And at those times, we're not to doubt the real love that's behind it, because I've recently had this epiphany that what really hurts us in relationships is not how other people treat us, sometimes through ego and more separate ways of behavior, and the human psyche that's often a little bit distorted because of that. But the parts of us that doubt the love that was in between everything and all of the exchanges. We go, well, what if that wasn't real? What if that love wasn't real? That's the part that hurts, because you're starting to doubt that which is the truth. And with the moment we put truth under the question, we're kind of like not living from our mastery, which is sensing what is the truth anyway, beyond those masks or people's egos being triggered off and things like that. So that's really important in this month. I would like to invite you to explore those realms, and when you're doing that, and when you're projecting that way, or someone else does it to you, towards you, not to you, but just be conscious of every energy exchange you have. Because I don't know a lot of awake people in the physical, but when I have a conversation with someone that is an aware conversation, when they're really being with you, you know, in a present way, they don't want to harm you in any way, that's what it means that they're already living from that you, and that's very rare. But those first few of us were doing that, and it's really good. So, okay, so the 1111 is a 2 also universal month energy. So again, it will be learning through partnerships. It's still that partnership energy reflected in the 11. So the synthesis of our strong pillar self through the reflection of the other. And everything will be amplified. This is a portal month. So the mastery of completion that we're working through right now is a karmic resolution and completion for many. So it is important that our own personal karma is moving through an adjustment and change, or we're just assisting someone or people as a soul agreement. So when someone might tell you, wow, why were you like this with this person, or why did you act like this is not spiritual, they're not seeing the soul agreement that you had with that person. Only you and that person's soul know what was the vow and the exchange between. So please, people, don't have those judgments, because sometimes I have people who come and I don't know, maybe I share something about what I've recently gone through, and they're like, what is this? Something, you know, random, and they don't know. They weren't there. They did not live through that experience, and it's not their agreement, so they can only scrape the very surface of the basic matter of what was actually taking place. So either it's your own karma, or, you know, volunteer souls also experience karma, but more as a karmic energy that they later have to dissolve through to master it, to assist others, because they have to learn how it works. You can't help people if you're not incarnated in the energy of how it is to actually be human in the very most basic way. Otherwise you can't assist that way. And there's different levels of soul volunteers on this planet at this time, and a lot of us came to assist through relationships, because we're bringing back that union through relationship harmony and divine love, and we have to have it the whole spectrum, not the halves. So through that resolution, patterns are dissolving for good for a lot of you. I had a pattern within me which I recently noticed. It was a voice that always said, well, I'm so good, I'm so whole, so if something happened and I perceived someone needing attention or love more than me, the voice said, it's okay, the other needs it more than me, or others need it more than me. And that was the voice that kind of still put separation into the whole game. So others versus me. When I see another as myself, and I'm so full of love, I merely have to hold the space for them. I don't have to bring everything to them. I don't have to cater to their every need. That's the old way, and that's the separation way. But as new humans, we're simply being pioneers and servants through showing the kind of love we offer to ourselves so that others can see, wow, this is how a human can love themselves. And I'm merely sharing with that. So I used to put myself on a standby mode for a while so that I could cater to the needs of others. And I used to do that a lot. And then I saw this right to the core in my face. And I was like, wow, every time I do that, I get a slap in the face through my own self, showing me that that's not our natural state. And for a lot of you, you might feel that as well. So learn to notice when you're really giving through flow, and when you're giving, when that little voice tells you, well, it's okay, I don't need it as much as other needs it. But you are the other, they are you. Each time we say that, we feed more into separation, okay? So everything that does not come from the core self, love, respect, honoring each other, and our mastery needs to be seen for what it is and dissolve for good. So people will react their ways. And I've had to experience a lot of shit from others as well. And each time my only role was how to respond to it. Not getting involved with it, no dramas, nothing. But people can still be people, and sometimes we put all of our trust in them. And that again was a lesson for me. Always, no matter how much unified we are, people will still people. They're still at the level where they are. So watch and observe how much all of yourself you're suddenly putting in. And someone recently told me in a beautiful way, it's not that you're naive, because that's how you love, and you show people how to love like a child, innocent and pure. And in a way I do. But there's also the other part that is our adult, wise self that is so discerning that it knows how far you can give, see how much reciprocity you receive as well back, so that you can give in a new way, and then that it's a flow, not that it's like a give. What am I receiving? Huh? Nothing? What? You know, and then again, total imbalance, that kind of thing. We have to observe in every moment whether it's flow or whether it's friction and separation that we do ourselves that way, because we're acting from those patterns. But for a lot of you, you're finally seeing through that. And you're finally seeing that there's no separation between you and another, and yet you're an individuum. And that's how love needs to flow. So when there is respect, another, no matter how egoic or shattered or, you know, fragmented they might be, they will still hold a level of respect for you, and they won't go against your soul, like bantering all of their shit onto you, and you will feel still the love behind it. If that's not there, there's no respect. Love cannot flourish. There's someone there who's going to put the corkscrew on it, and you will feel like a shattering experience from it. So that's not loving. That's not coming from a space of unity. So learn to see the difference. So to complete this 9-year cycle, it's important because this is before we can move into a new one, which starts next year with the One Energy. So people, places, and situations, including extreme ones, mine was as well very extreme in October, are being played out now. It's almost like a synthesis is coming out. So in extreme conditions, we can often meet the new, dormant potentials and aspects of us that we otherwise could not. My example was, when I felt the fall, I felt like I've fallen to the lowest of the low, but you know, it was like now I have nothing left to lose. So I tried new approaches, and I saw how that feels. So you can fall to the lowest point, which in fact is also the seed of the highest. So that is the activation of the highest potential again. Then we can understand the secrets and principles of polarity. We would act differently in such conditions. So we would just be different, and that's what we see in those extreme conditions. So we would act out with greater reverence and humility and gratitude and clarity. And you will feel when someone, either though they're sharing anger with you, they're still loving. Like Osha says, you know, anger is not of love when it's really anger from the soul, because sometimes we have to stand up for ourselves, or we kind of show our feelings. And people say that's not love or that's not spiritual. And I so agree with him, because if anger is a catalyst for new expression, but you're just moving with the energy at that time, it doesn't stick on you, it doesn't stay, then it's simply, again, you will feel the energy, whether there's loving, passionate energy behind it. If there's just coolness, aloofness, and you just feel cold, there's no energy behind it. Sometimes people say that's detached. No, it's not the same. When you're really detached from a loving way, you will be detached. Like, that's not your play out. It's something that you can't get involved with because it's someone else's journey and growth. But you still feel love, you still feel warmth. That's not the same as detached in a sense of being aloof, when people cut the cord instantly without letting the energy dissolve on its own. And I've witnessed that so many times with people who act out of fear. they're open and they close up again and open and it's very, very heart shattering when you have that feeling like you're pouring your heart out to another, for example, and they're always like up, down, and you don't know what you can expect from them, because each moment they can show you another face because they're not integrated yet in their spirit and form. So my current experience was very much reflecting that, and I was learning how to be with someone who can have such extreme shifts, whether that will still influence me, whether that will kind of tear my psyche down as well, whether I'll still stay strong in what I've already mastered for myself. So from the lowest to the highest, and moving into the unity consciousness, and using every situation for mastery, that's also very important. So know that the master chooses. You are that master. Whether it's something you're perceiving as an aggression or anger or attack from another, it's also a choice. But, you know, people say mirroring, we're mirrors. If I'm angry, you're angry. No. It just means that maybe you've chosen to master, in a way, how you deal when someone's angry or when they're being fragmented, like I said before. How do you stand in your pillar? It's just how it is. So trusting others, sometimes, like I said, with blind faith, without a mastery behind it, sometimes we give our creation to them. We hand it over. We say, okay, I trust you, do whatever you do, but then our creation is lost. So see the fine line between whether you become passive and you're no longer creating, like you put everything, all your trust into another, and you stop engaging with your own sense of wisdom, what you also need to do for you during something playing out. So people have to earn our trust that way as well sometimes. And I had to learn that the hard way as well. So we're wise masters, so you know, we don't have to misrespect or abuse others, and we won't do that. We're still going to be loving. Either way, we'll express ourselves, but in a loving way. And Germain says that the same in the Mastery of New Energy. So old beliefs of being kind and polite and always caretaking, you know, it's old. If someone donates or gives something from a state of I'm a good person, so I'm doing that, it's not from the heart. It's not authentic, and it's a mask. So that's a way that goes against honoring our heart. So if a giving comes from conditioned beliefs, it's not of pure love, and that's not of our heart space. So we're not honoring our heart. You know, sometimes I say that I'd rather have someone to say something very blunt in my face than keep it hidden and, you know, pretend they're polite on the outside. It's a mask. Because I was always a person of just downright to the bottom authentic. That's how I was, and I prefer that. But people are not always like that. So the question would be, what are the motives behind our giving? Ask yourself this question always. And when you initiate something, know why you're doing it. If you're taking a trip, if you're having a relationship, if you want to do something together or yourself, why are you doing it? Is it coming from the soul, or is it something that you think you need to do? So trust that feeling. Okay. So this month, we will also have, I think, a full moon in Taurus, which in a way Taurus is earthly, it's Venusian. So we will kind of be able to set the new trends and new physical desires from what started to come on from our deepest depths. Because I think Scorpio is kind of like a reset button from, you know, are you kidding? Are you real? Is that your desire? Or where do you want to go into the underworld? And what will still elevate outwardly and come back to the surface as a phoenix, which is the highest aspect of Scorpio, then that will be genuine and authentic, and the rest can stay in the underworld in an integrated way, not in a non-acknowledged subconscious way that's suppressed and latent. So we started the month actually with the October 30th, which was the Scorpio new moon. So it did ask us what are our deepest, most inner voices and hidden desires that we often don't even recognize because we don't want to admit them to ourselves. Or people might not admit their true sexual orientation or, you know, what they really feel. So they're going to continuously say, no, but I need to do this, I need to do this. And it will persist so long that in the end you might feel it as resentment for others, but it's really a resentment for yourself because you haven't listened and paid attention to what's really wanting to come through you and to the surface through your true self. So I feel November, in a way, is like a reset button, and the 11/11 also, not that just it activates, it also resets the whole energy. So towards the end of the month, I think 29th, we'll have a Sagittarius new moon, which will then be a more adventurous new beginning. So how will we move with that energy of what's truly for us inwardly in this cycle, and how do we move it outward and share it more with the rest of humanity, the world at large, you know, being passionate about the world stage and what's happening in the world, and new philosophies and new expansions of our soul. So this huge reset occurs in November. I've already told you the lunation, so the 30th of October, although it was still October, was a setting trend for this month of November. So this was, in a way, how do we approach intimacy and detached intimacy, but that's not the same as cold and resilient in a way, and refusing things that are true. And we're going to have full moon in Taurus, and then again a new moon on 29th in Sagittarius. So one more thing I want to talk about before we go to the automatic writing part is chaos for growth. So in tarot, we have that archetype that we call the Tower. And chaos is so important. People don't recognize that enough, because when we're in chaos, we perceive I'm almost afloat. And sometimes we need to learn that energy, because when things are peaceful, we kind of like to take the initiative all the time. But in chaos, we're actually learning how to also just flow through life, because sometimes things are so chaotic and so weird. We're saying, I don't know what's happening anymore, and you're just surrendering, and you're just going with the flow, and like the flow of the river here. Because you have nothing else to do or to lose, and we have to learn that, because if our grips are from ego, they're not serving us. So it's not really initiating things from our soul. So through chaos, which is also part of our soul growth, we're learning to apply the wisdom of just trusting the flow, and also other people sometimes. And I've had this recent experience when I could act out from my old self, which was, I'm going to do it alone, it's going to be hard, and I had no resources, and I've ended up alone. I didn't know where to go, whether back and forth. I was like, I had none of my things, money, nothing. And I could go like, well, what can I do? I just have to be myself. And I felt like this isolated feeling. And I said, you know what, I'm going to call out, I'm going to ask for help, and help came. So I did it in a new way. I did it through cooperation and asking for help, because a lot of times we think we're asking, but we're asking only in our mind. We're not physically asking. We're saying, people, they should get what I need, they should get what I want, they should already be telepathic. Well, look at where most humanity is. Most of the people are still so much dealing with their own stuff. They're so present with what's happening for them that they can't do union with another or with the group. Not yet. So we have to lesser the demands, and those things that we know we can fulfill, we have to do it ourselves first. And then the right people who can, who are already on your wavelength and evolutionary soul cycle vibrational attunement will do, and will come, and will meet you halfway. So this tarot card as well, I think, which is learning through life experience, sometimes through chaos, which is a tower, is always a good card. And in Scorpio energy, sometimes it's the most feared energy, because people say, oh, it's so intense. Oh my God, it's all... Well, there is nothing actually that's intense. It's just that we are so suppressed, most of the humans, that they're afraid what's going to start happening when that energy starts to push the buttons. I don't want to see those boo-boos, and I don't want to see those desires. Well, you have to. Otherwise, there's always going to remain latent and kind of gonna prick on you in that way. There's going to be like, hello, hello, and up until the point it gets so annoying, the bubble just needs to burst, right? So do it in a gentle way. Don't do it in a way that you suppress for so long that then you explode on someone who's not even at fault. And you're just going to end up hurting another being. And sometimes that can happen. It happened to me as well through another. And I'm just constantly witnessing that people who harbor their feelings and are not expressing in an authentic way, they're always going to, in the end, push the button in a way that they're going to be hurtful towards others. And that's not unity consciousness, because someone who does that is not fully in their own self-love. Because someone who loves the self loves the other. See, they treat the other how they treat themselves. So when someone is mean towards you, or aggressive, or just, you know, acting not out of place of unity, don't judge them, but see rather that they're doing it because they're still lacking their own self-love, and let them find it. Don't be the martyr, and don't be their savior or healer. Just let them do what they need to do. Just love them. Sometimes that means loving from a distance as well. So we're understanding more of those sacred principles of applying them, and how this chaos energy moves through us in our life. So we don't have to do anything that we're not guided to do. So people say, I need to do this or save that, or, you know, chaos and reset often have us humbled, you know, by new unknown circumstances. So we can sometimes bow down in humility and wait for new to come to us without force. That's what chaos teaches us many times. So don't fear that, and don't fear the void as well. The other extreme, because we have those extremes sometimes as humans, we are learning to integrate through extremes. Here, polarities meeting. So chaos and void. And when things are void, no longer chaotic, humans will say, oh my God, now it's boring because it's so void. What am I doing wrong? Every time the void comes, we're always going to be met up with the question, am I doing something wrong? Should I be doing more? Should I be engaging more? Let the void in, because it's actually cleansing you, like that white light, of everything that used to come from patternings, so that next time you're going to be presented with new opportunities and people and relationships, it's going to come from a new you. No longer that reactive you, but the responsive master self you. So we don't have to fear the chaos, but rather we can understand its value and the meaning in our life, the purpose for our soul expansion. For example, like I said, the feared energy of Scorpio, and we don't want to see it. The underworld energy goes through death and rebirth, and then a phoenix rising from the ashes, and what comes back up can only come up through life force if it's authentic. So see when the life force energy feels stagnant, and it's okay. That's when you're probably putting it in other people or places, but then see when you need to withdraw it again. Take the breath of life back to you. And I teach that in my mastery courses. So go to my page, Self-Mastery, look at the courses, especially I think this wisdom is shared in the Soul Alchemy and Sacred Sexuality course. But the Illumined Priesthood I want to talk about is, I want to read the automatic writing to you, but this is all about the merge of the falling energy of Atlantis. So when we were meeting the fallen energies, right, these principles, and often they came to other people in relationships, and that's why I was shown that many of the light were actually meeting those who still carrying dark imprints, because the final unification needs to occur, and that's why that happens. It's not karma even. Volunteer souls, they don't have karma, but with the light energy, that's what's happening, and that is why many light ones have been meeting those more based in service to the self, which sometimes we say these are the darker ways, when you're serving the self and your ego, for that final stage of divine integration to be set. So sometimes see if you're one of those people, and if you're meeting people who, they might have great power. They can manifest easily. They can create a lot of money, for example. But how are they using it? Are they using it for greater good? Are they're tuning into through service to wholeness, to all? See that. And if you're meeting a lot of that energy and you were always the service to others, see how you can integrate the two. And the selfless meets the selfish. This is how the giver meets the taker, and the generous meets the arrogant. And these extreme polarities are going to come into a synthesis very soon. And this integration, through total non-judgment and into compassion and understanding, is taking place. And don't look whether others are doing it or not. It's important whether you're doing it or not. So your voice counts, your embodiment counts. So the prime core wounds are finally resolving and dissolving through that. And now let's see what the writing is all about. It's very short, but I think it's very pivotal for our growth. And yeah, so I was asking about the manifolded nature, the multidimensional nature of something, whether a relationship takes place, or whether you had a new place integration or something, just moving in your energy. Sometimes things come as briefly as they exit out of your life, and that's also good, because it means, wow, I've done that fast, so I don't have to repeat it over and over again. And you might doubt yourself, what was that so fast? Why did it come and go? Because you don't need much more than that. Trust yourself, right? So every experience that we've had was not separate from any other previous ones. So any experience is actually all one experience. They're all one experience, with many faces, players, and key figures that all can come down to one boiling point. The sacred alchemy of yourself, the mastering refinement of your soul, of our one group soul, as it travels these realms of physical dimensions. There are many masters of the ancient being who have already mastered themselves and the laws of this physical universe, and yet, as every true mastery always continues to expand, now the mastery levels for many of such beings is to merely test out their own creations. And yes, there are those that have been the primary and primordial forefathers and mothers of this creation experience, as we're also playing it out now on Earth, the foundational creation pillars that have been here since the very beginning of time, as we call it. Why they love certain aspects, if not all, of the human experience so much and dive deeply themselves into it is because they have been laying the foundations for such experiences. So the divine plan acted out on this particular plane of existence and experience through such love and devotion. And as they created it all in the grand ethereal design, in a way of dreaming and singing it into matter, and I've spoken about creation angels before, and watch my video on creation pillars, it's on YouTube, they now live for it in this human realm as the caretakers of the new. So that is the primary devotion behind their love and commitment. The levels of devotion that they know and carry cannot be compared to the standard norms of most humanity, of the devotion that most humans know right now and are able to convey. For they know and understand that everything they know and come into contact with, and everyone, is a part of their own co-creation, and it is them. It is a part of them. So the great creatrix of all. So as they know, they carry that code of devotion onward, to seed others with that same primal remembrance code of allness. These beings that already hold that level of consciousness are the illumined ones. And they always meet and greet everyone through the allness of being. So they meet and love them as they meet themselves, through purity and through the grace of the divine, the love and unity consciousness. And so the great forefathers and mothers become and activate the sisters and brothers, the all that are ready and hold the capacity to return to the greatness of allness. They do that so naturally, simply by being themselves and generating the primal code of this consciousness. And so they help to seed the new illumined priesthood of the new humanity and the new earth. So I hope this resonated with you somehow. I'm going to wrap it up for this month. There will be much more that I share always in my later coming updates through many of the videos that follow. And I would like to also say that you can now support me on Patreon. I have a fellowship program there, which is actually just the initiative. Still in the beginning stages. I feel that will start pouring in more next year, but it was set into motion now at the completion of this year, because I had this planned for, I think, for over a year, but it wasn't time yet. So please check that out. The video about the fellowship explains this well, and the link on my Patreon support team, you can find it down below. Also, like I said, the newsletters are now just blogs, but I share everything through every spirit guidance that I receive for each Ascension upgrade. For those of you who feel you're part of this path, just tune in frequently or just subscribe on my Diary of Ascension Pioneers. Check on my courses, and I will announce when the new one is up. What else I wish to say? If you're guided to donate and support, thank you so much, because this does help me to keep the energy in balance and in flow, because these free videos that I offer here are meant to be as a donation base as well. Thank you so much for your loving feedback. I will also share some of the art very soon that I've been actually creating behind the scenes, because it's all meant to anoint us with this new light. So just stay updated. I'm very happy to be back, although my recent experience of the holiday didn't end the way I thought, because it was a feeling that it's going to be different, and yet I had to go through it myself. And afterwards, I felt such a new strength, a new mastery coming through. So I really encourage you that in those moments when you feel the weakest, or you feel like, wow, this is the very bottom, I can't get lower than this, these are actually reset points for your new mastery to come up, that phoenix to soar high again and say, but how can I draw from the resources maybe before I never thought I had? Or you learn to apply abilities that you thought they're not even there, you're not like that, then you are so courageous all of a sudden, or you're starting to ask for help now, or you're starting to self-express more, or before you felt rejected if you maybe invited someone in your shared space before and you felt, they're going to answer this way, what are they going to think about me, or am I too invasive? Now you're just thinking, what the heck? I'm not thinking, I'm just feeling what I'm doing. And that's the whole reason point. That's what this month I feel is a gift and a blessing offers to all of you and all of us who are in this path. So stay updated for more coming through my regular videos. I love you all so very much. I hope this awareness blesses you in your sacred space wherever and whenever you are. And that's it. Check out my crystals as well. Crystals from the Alps. People usually really love those crystals. I'm going to share more in my art video. So I work with the energy of the white ray and Serapis and the seraphim and the singing essence. So it's what I love to do the most. I love you so very much. Greetings from the sacred space. As always, love, wisdom, and power. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a beautiful month of November. Bye-bye.